Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Today we are going to be discussing antecedent-based interventions. This is a learning module from the Affirm website. And today we are going to be talking about interventions focused around individuals diagnosed with autism. And the intervention that we're going to be focused on is antecedent-based interventions. Antecedent-based interventions can be used to decrease an identified interfering behavior by using environmental modifications to change the conditions in the setting that prompt the learner to engage into interfering behavior. Interfering behaviors are more likely to occur when particular environmental conditions accompany the behavior and provide reinforcement for the interfering behavior's use. The goal of ABI is to identify factors that are reinforcing the identified interfering behavior and then to modify the environment or activity so that the factors no longer elicit the interfering behavior. Basics of ABI learning objectives. After reading through these modules and lessons, we'll be able to describe antecedent-based interventions, identify with what ages and settings ABI can be used, identify outcomes supported by research that ABI can be used to effectively address. So, what is ABI? Derived from applied behavior analysis, antecedent-based interventions are used to address both interfering behaviors, repetitive, disruptive, and on-task behaviors, engage or working specific task activity behaviors. ABI is commonly used with other evidence-based practices such as functional behavior assessment, FBA, extinction, EXT, and reinforcement. With ABI, teachers and practitioners focus on identifying the events that take place immediately before and after an identified interfering behavior. The identification of both before and after events allows for teachers and practitioners to identify the conditions or events within the environment that prompt the learner to exhibit the identified behavior, and the conditions or events that are reinforcing the behavior after it occurs. To fully understand what might be causing an interfering behavior, consider 4 key concepts: behavior, antecedent stimulus, consequence, and setting events. ABI events, conditions. Setting event, anything that increases the likelihood that the identified interfering behavior will occur. Loud noise, group work, starting new medicine, not getting enough sleep. Those are all examples of setting event. Antecedent, events or conditions that occur directly before the identified interfering behavior occurs. School bell rings to change classes, Teacher asks learner to wash their hands. Assignment of math worksheet. Peer asks for a book. So antecedents occur directly before the identified interfering behavior. Then you have behavior. Identify interfering behavior. Screaming, crying, hitting, biting, hand flapping. Lastly, consequence. Events or conditions that occur directly after the identified interfering behavior occurs. Examples being teacher says no biting, learner allowed to go to the resource room, learner gets a break, learner allowed to work alone. ABI's goal is to modify the environment to change the conditions in the setting that prompt the learner to engage in the identified interfering behavior. ABI is designed to prevent the identified interfering behavior from occurring. Common ABI strategies include using learner preferences, changing schedules, routines, implementing pre-activity interventions, using choice making, altering how instruction is delivered, or enriching the environment with sensory stimuli. Each of these strategies will be discussed in further detail in Lesson 3 using ABI. So let's see. Let's check in here. Select the additional evidence-based practice that is commonly used with ABI. Functional behavior assessment. Functional behavior assessment is most commonly used with ABI to help determine the function of an interfering behavior. ABI goals. Instructional goals or domains that can be addressed by using antecedent-based interventions include address adaptive behavior, reduce self-injurious behavior, reduce aggression, reduce interfering behaviors, improve transitions, increase communication, reduce stereotype or repetitive behaviors, increase engagement, increase social skills, enhance academic performance, and increase initiations. And as we can see over here, we have a visual. By organizing art materials in the center of the table before beginning the painting activity, the teacher has reduced the learner's frustration and increased their engagement in the painting activity with peers. How can ABI help learners? Many learners on the spectrum exhibit interfering behaviors. ABI strategies are useful because they focus on identifying the conditions in the environment that might contribute to the occurrence of the interfering behavior. ABI can help prevent or reduce interfering behaviors and increase engagement and on-task behaviors. Additionally, ABI strategies are easy to implement and require little additional effort by team members who work with the learner. Let's listen to how 3 different professionals use antecedent-based interventions in their classroom. Antecedent-based interventions can be used by a variety of professionals, including teachers, special educators, therapists, paraprofessionals, and early interventions in educational and community-based environments. Parents and family members also can use antecedent-based interventions in the home.
Fire drills used to be a very challenging time for Nicole. We'd never know when fire drills would happen. When we used to have a fire drill, Nicole would start screaming and put her hands over her ears. She refused to go out of the building, and I would have to carry her outside. Our team decided to try ABI. We practiced a fire drill and created a visual cue for a fire drill. When we now have fire drills, we show Nicole the visual cue, and she knows she needs to walk outside. She still holds her hands over her ears, but she does walk outside independently. Fire drills used...
Andrew was having a hard time during our math lessons. When it was time for him to complete addition problems on his own, he would tear up the paper and refuse to do any work unless a teacher would sit with him and help him. After conducting a functional behavior analysis, we realized he was trying to avoid doing the math problems because he thought they were too hard. We modified the assignment by providing visual cues for each math problem and reducing the number of math problems required for Andrew. These modifications have provided Andrew with the support he needs to be successful. He no longer avoids doing independent math work.
Evan really struggled with unpacking his backpack. He was always forgetting to put his lunch away and turn in homework. When he realized he forgot his lunch or to turn in his assignment, he would become very upset and pinch his arms. We decided to use an ABI strategy of creating a visual cue of the directions of how to unpack his backpack. He is doing so much better. He follows the directions and is now able to turn everything in. This has reduced his self-injurious behaviors.
Evidence base for ABI. The National Clearinghouse on Autism Evidence and Practice reviewed literature from 1990 to 2017 and reported their findings in 2020. Antecedent-Based Interventions is a focused intervention that meets the evidence-based practice criteria with 47 single case design and 2 group design studies. Antecedent-based interventions have been effective for early intervention, 0 to 2 years, preschoolers, 3 to 5 years, elementary school learners, 6 to 11 years, middle school learners, 12 to 14 years, high schoolers, 15 to 18 years, and young adults, 19 to 22 years on the spectrum. Studies included the 2020 EBP report detail how antecedent-based interventions can be used to effectively address the following outcomes for a target goal, behavior, skill, academic, pre-academic, adaptive, self-help, behavior, communication, mental health, play, school readiness, and social. Below, here's a table with the instructional outcomes identified by the evidence base are shown by age of participants. Let's go through the basics of ABI with this activity here. So we have to match the ABI event condition to the definition. So let's see. We have antecedent, consequence, setting event, and behavior. Our definitions are anything that increases the likelihood that the identified event will occur. Events or conditions that occur directly before the identified interfering behavior occurs. Identified interfering behavior. Events or conditions that occur directly after the identified interfering behavior occurs. Okay. So we read that something that occurs directly before would be the antecedent. Something that occurs directly after will be the consequence. We can conclude that anything that increases the likelihood that the identified event will occur, set an event, and the behavior.